For generations, the galaxy burned. Two ancient empires, locked in a forever war, painted the stars with the ashes of fallen worlds. But one species chose a different path. They called themselves observers. They built their homes in the quiet, forgotten corners of space, believing that peace was a shield. They were wrong. This is the story of how the galaxy learned a new terrifying truth, that the silence of a peaceful people is far more dangerous than the roar of any army. The silence of New Aurora was its most precious and most deceptive commodity. It was a silence woven from the near-perfect hum of life support, the gentle sigh of recycled air, and the profound star-dusted emptiness of the asteroid belt. This mining habitat, a jewel of human ingenuity carved into the heart of a colossal iron-rich asteroid, was a testament to humanity's stubborn neutrality. For generations, the galaxy had been tearing itself apart in a brutal, seemingly endless forever war between the militaristic Grau Collective and the cunning Kylan Dominion. Humanity, a relative newcomer on the galactic stage, had made a conscious collective decision to stay out of it. They were the Concord of Observers, a neutral power that traded with all, allied with none, and fortified its small corner of the galaxy with treaties and trade agreements instead of warships. Nia Rostov, a senior medic on the habitat, cherished this peace. It was the peace that allowed her 8-year-old daughter Kala to sleep soundly in their small but comfortable quarters, her dreams filled not with the horrors of war, but with the wonders of the cosmos. Kala's current obsession was geology. Her room was a carefully curated museum of terrestrial and Martian rocks, but she craved the real thing, a genuine straight-from-the-source asteroid rock, pitted and scarred by millennia of cosmic radiation, one with stardust on it. "Mama," she had pleaded, her eyes wide with a child's pure, unwavering desire. Nia had smiled and promised to bring one home. That promise was the reason she was now wrist-deep in a collapsed mining corridor in Sector Gamma 7, working frantically to free a trapped miner named Kai. A support beam weakened by a miscalculated seismic charge had failed, pinning his leg under a mountain of rock and durasteel. "Hold on, Kai," Nia said, her voice a deliberate calm counterpoint to the groaning metallic symphony of the stressed superstructure around them. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and pulverized rock. She pressed a high-dose painkiller injector to his dusty pressure suit, the hiss of the device barely audible over the habitat's low hum. "Kala wants a real rock," she said, her words a strange mantra of normalcy in the chaos. "And since you're currently camped out in a whole quarry of them, I'm getting you out of here." Kai, his face pale and beaded with sweat behind his visor, managed a pained, breathy laugh. "Anything for the kid, just get a good one." It was then that the first warning came, a low, insistent whine that built in the habitat's framework, a deep vibration that Nia felt in her jaw. A low-priority alert flashed on her wrist-mounted display, micrometeorite proximity warning. Annoying but routine. The habitat's outer hull was designed to withstand a constant barrage of small impacts. The routine ended. The whine didn't fade, it climbed, escalating with terrifying speed into a full-throated, gut-wrenching scream, an alarm so primal and terrifying that no one on New Aurora had ever heard it before. The corridor lights flickered, died, and were instantly replaced by the sickening rhythmic pulse of red emergency strobes. Through a reinforced viewport down the hall, the serene star-dusted blackness of space tore itself open. A single incandescent sliver of rage, a Growl Reaper-class missile, materialized from the chaos of a misaligned hyperspace jump. It was a crude, ugly thing, a piece of cheap, mass-produced military hardware. Its guidance system, through a 1 in a billion sequence of cascading failures, had bungled its one job and was now about to succeed spectacularly at another. It had made a cosmic wrong turn, but its new trajectory was as simple and as undeniable as gravity. Nia looked up, the strobing red light illuminating the raw, uncomprehending disbelief on her face. Her helmet's comm system remained active on an open emergency channel, broadcasting her every breath, every heartbeat to the local system. That expression of disbelief curdled, then melted into something else, a fury as ancient and as profound as the species itself. White fire, silent and absolute, consumed the world outside the viewport. Her last defiant scream, a wordless, guttural testament to a billion years of defiance, echoed across the system, a final promise of a terrible reckoning to come. The UN Security Council chamber on Earth, a place usually buzzing with the quiet, urgent whispers of diplomacy, held a silence so deep and profound you could hear the life support vents sigh. On the main holographic display, towering 100 feet high, Nia Rostov's final moments played in a silent, horrifying, and endless loop. The white fire, the look of disbelief turning to fury, the final unheard scream. Every news network, from the gleaming spires of Mars to the rugged, independent colonies of the Kuiper Belt, had scrubbed, amplified, and replayed the audio from her open comm channel. Her last defiant, wordless cry was a ghost haunting the entire Sol system, but it was her final guttural words, uttered in a primal snarl just before the end, that had become the true anthem of this new, terrifying age. They blared from every speaker, hung in the sterile, chilled air of the chamber like a death sentence, an accusation and a prophecy all at once. Dr. Zyla Roma stood at the podium, a ghost in a tailored suit. She was the chief architect of the Concord of Observers, the meticulously crafted policy of neutrality that had just catastrophically, spectacularly failed. The weight of 30,000 ghosts, 30,000 lives from New Aurora, pressed down on her shoulders, each one a testament to what now felt like a naive, almost childish belief in galactic civility. For years she had argued, lobbied, and passionately convinced humanity that its survival depended on avoiding the galaxy's forever war. She had pointed to the endless grinding casualty lists of both the Growl and the Kylan, to the planets left shattered and barren in their wake, and had built a fortress of peace out of treaties. She had been wrong. Beside her, Admiral Hideo Park, the stoic commander of the Sol Defense Force, watched the silent, looping image of Nia's face. His own face seemed to drink the room's ambient light and revealed nothing, a mask of perfect military discipline. But his knuckles were bone white where he gripped the back of an empty chair. The recording of the New Aurora disaster had become more than news. It was a spark, a single furious spark in a planetary powder keg that had been generations in the making. On every screen, in every bar, apartment, and public square across the solar system, Nia Rostov's face had become a symbol. The initial overwhelming wave of universal grief had already begun to curdle into a cold, directed rage that humanity hadn't collectively felt since it had first clawed its way out of Earth's gravity well. The Growl ambassador is waiting. He requests an immediate audience. Romas nodded, her throat too tight for words. She felt the eyes of every delegate in the chamber on her. They didn't just see a diplomat anymore. They saw a failure, and they were waiting, with a terrifying, unified patience to see what she would do about it. The meeting room was a sterile white box, a design meant to eliminate distractions. Today, its sterility only amplified the sheer, overwhelming physical presence of the Growl ambassador, Grog. He was a mountain of muscle and dark fur, an ursine creature from a species that measured honor in tonnage and considered diplomacy a tedious subset of ballistics. He bypassed condolences and went straight to a statement, a regrettable incident. He explained the cascading sequence of malfunctions in the missile's guidance system during a hyperlane transition, delivering the technical explanation with the emotional investment of a mechanic describing a faulty fuel injector. He presented a data slate. The Growl Collective offers reparations. The sum reflects the settlement's projected economic output, adjusted for loss of life per standard galactic indemnity tables. Romas stared at the slate, then back at the ambassador. His dark, beady eyes showed the profound, undisguised annoyance of a giant who had accidentally stepped on an anthill and was now being forced to deal with the paperwork. An accident of war. Your settlement occupied a volatile region. You are observers. You observed. You will accept this compensation, and we will all move on. A cold, pointed anger solidified in Romas's chest, a block of absolute zero, a perfect geometric structure of fury. Ambassador, 30,000 human beings are dead. Yes, the indemnity tables are quite generous on that point. The concept of grief eluded him. To him they were a statistic, an inconvenience, an accounting error a credit transfer would correct. Romas slid the data slate back across the table. We refuse the compensation. This is illogical. The offer is final, and so is our refusal. The matter remains open. Hours later, a different predator occupied the sterile white box. Emissary Vespera of the Kylan Dominion was the Growl's opposite in every way. Slender, graceful, her long limbs moving with an avian delicacy. Her species prized intellect and manipulation, viewing the galaxy as a complex game of Go where direct confrontation was the clumsy tactic of simple-minded brutes. She tilted her head, her eyes twin pools of polished jet that reflected the room in unsettling detail. She began with a display of sorrow so perfect it was an insult. Such a tragedy, to be caught in the crossfire of such brutes. This proves what we have always known, Dr. Romas. Neutrality is a fragile shield. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Perhaps you need a stronger power for your protection. An alliance. The Dominion could offer its fleet, its technology. We could ensure such an accident never happens again. The offer was as clear as it was insulting. Become a protectorate, a vassal state, a tool to be used against the Growl. In a moment of chilling clarity, Romas saw it all. Grog saw humanity as an accidentally crushed anthill. Vespera saw them as a stick to poke the bear. Neither saw 30,000 dead men, women, and children. They both saw an opportunity. Your concern is noted, emissary. As the door hissed shut behind Vespera, Romas allowed herself a single shuddering breath. They were trapped. A bear and a snake had them cornered, and both saw humanity as helpless, insignificant prey. They were both about to learn how terribly wrong they were. While Earth's diplomats dealt with condescending giants and whispering snakes, The real response to the New Aurora tragedy began not in a pristine government hall, but in a sprawling zero-gravity workshop orbiting Titan like a metallic barnacle. Renzo Carrick, a civilian engineer with a reputation for brilliant, if dangerously unorthodox designs, had a very different kind of meeting. His only attendees were a half-disassembled fusion core, a grumpy one-armed welding drone named Sparky, and a flickering monitor displaying the same viral clip of Nia Rostov's final moments. The raw, unfiltered audio of her defiant scream cut through the hiss of his plasma torch. "You fucked up now. You're goddamn right they did." In a sudden explosion of motion, he slammed his torch onto a workbench, grabbed the nearest heavy object, a Class 3 hyperspanner, and hurled it with all his might across the cavernous bay. It spun end over end in the microgravity, finally clanging harmlessly off the side of a decommissioned reactor core. The rage remained, a chaotic high-octane energy in his chest, but now it had found a conduit. It sharpened, focused. His intelligent, restless eyes flicked from the looping video to a schematic on his main console, a Series 9 cargo hauler, a space truck. Ugly, reliable, and utterly, beautifully unremarkable. With quick, angry movements, his fingers jabbed and swiped at the holographic interface. His hands, usually known for their delicate, precise work, moved now with a cold, brutal purpose. He began dragging and dropping new components onto the hauler's blueprint, a mad artist creating a masterpiece of asymmetrical warfare. Military-grade drone racks from a decommissioned Seoul Defense Force patrol cutter, a jury-rigged sensor jamming suite he'd designed last year for a smuggler who'd paid him in rare earth metals, mounts for repurposed asteroid mining lasers, tweaked not for cutting rock but for tighter, more destructive bursts. He wasn't thinking about war, or patriotism, or flags, or geopolitics. He was an engineer, and he was focused on a problem, a very big, very loud, very furry problem that had broken something that should have remained intact. Grief was the fuel, anger was the spark plug, and his beautiful, chaotic, brilliant mind was the engine that had just roared to life. This initial burst of creativity led to something more refined, more elegant, more dangerous. He designed the Stinger, a cheap, fast, 3D printable drone frame built around a repurposed mining charge and a simple logic board. It was designed not to be a weapon, but to be a virus. He uploaded the open-source schematics to a popular deep space engineering forum with a single, one-line comment: "They broke our stuff. Let's go break theirs." The response was instantaneous and terrifying. Within a day, the files were mirrored 1,000,000 times. Within 3 days, engineers from Mumbai to Nairobi were live-streaming their first successful prints from backyard workshops, holding up the spidery, menacing drone chassis like newborn trophies. The schematics evolved in real time as thousands of anonymous collaborators suggested improvements for power routing, targeting algorithms, and material composition. The outrage was a virus, and humanity's interconnected network was the perfect host. In the asteroid belt, grizzled miners whose cousins and friends had been on New Aurora began modifying their seismic survey charges, turning them not into simple bombs, but into a coordinated, system-wide minefield controlled by a shared, encrypted spreadsheet. The big shipping corporations, with their vast fleets of FTL-capable freighters, initially tried to remain neutral. Then their pilots, members of a fiercely independent and notoriously stubborn guild, threatened a general strike. One Martian shipping magnate, Alistair Kane, publicly refused to commit his fleet, citing fiduciary duty. The response was utterly brutal. His company's stock went into freefall. A global boycott of all his subsidiaries was organized on social media. A live feed of his own pilots painting Nia Rostov's last words in giant furious letters on the hulls of his prized super freighters became the #1 stream in the system. Kane caved, releasing a tearful statement about his profound, belated sense of civic duty. The mobilization erupted from the bottom up, without orders or conscription notices. It was a leaderless, chaotic swarm intelligence that moved with a terrifying singular purpose. Humanity bypassed building an army. It became one. Admiral Park found Zyla Romas in her office late that night. She was staring at a static image of New Aurora taken a week before the attack. A jewel box of habitats and docking arms nestled in the heart of a massive asteroid, glowing with the light of 30,000 souls. The Seoul Defense Force consists of 12 destroyers and 4 heavy cruisers. The Growl Border Fleet, the one that launched the missile, has 50 capital ships. A conventional war is suicide, Zyla. We would be a rounding error in their casualty reports. Romas finally tore her gaze from the image. Her eyes were hollow, cavernous, but a single frightening ember burned deep inside them. Then we fight an unconventional war. We don't declare war. Declarations are for governments with fleets. We don't have a fleet. What we have is 15 billion angry, inventive, and very well-connected people. We don't try to win. We make ourselves an unacceptable variable. We become a bigger, more terrifying, more annoying, and more expensive problem than their actual enemy. Park stared at her. The diplomat who had championed peace was gone. In her place was a stranger who planned to not just ignore the rules of the chessboard, but to chew up the pieces and set the board on fire. What are you proposing? I'm proposing that we teach the galaxy a new definition for the term planetary hornet's nest. The first meeting of the ad hoc emergency coalition was a spectacular clash of cultures. In a secure bunker deep beneath UN headquarters, Admiral Park and his uniformed officers presented orthodox attack plans, fleet maneuvers, flanking actions, all ending with the total annihilation of the Sol Defense Force. These projections indicate a 100% casualty rate. At that moment, a flickering, life-size hologram of Renzo Carrick crackled to life at the head of the table. He wore a grease-stained t-shirt and held a half-eaten protein gel packet. Of course they do. You absolute penguins. You're trying to play chess with the guy who owns the board. Stop thinking about ships. We don't have ships. What we have, Mr. Carrick, are 12 destroyers. No, Admiral. What we have are 10,000 delivery trucks with FTL drives and a very bad attitude. What we have are 500,000 backyard workshops with 3D printers. What we have is every pissed-off asteroid miner from here to the Oort cloud. You're trying to punch a mountain. I suggest we give it a terminal case of space termites. He swiped his hand, and the military projections vanished, replaced by a chaotic, incomprehensible schematic of shipping lanes and resource depots. We don't fight their fleet. We starve it, unplug it. We make it the most powerful, most expensive, and most useless pile of junk in the galaxy. After days of heated debate, they had their first target, the Griffin's Clutch, a massive, fully automated Growl refueling and rearming station, hidden deep inside a treacherous nebula, the logistical linchpin for their entire sector fleet. It was a vulnerability hidden in plain sight, fortified against a fleet assault, but not against an infestation. The attack on the Griffin's Clutch began with 1,000 silent tears in the fabric of space. The Ghost Fleet, a motley collection of 200 converted bulk freighters, deep space construction rigs, and grizzled ore haulers, jumped into the nebula in a chaotic, staggered wave. The Growl Station's automated defenses, programmed to target capital ships, were utterly bewildered. Before its AI could resolve its cognitive dissonance, the freighters opened their cargo bays. A plague poured out. Tens of thousands of Stinger drones swarmed the station, a cloud of angry metallic insects. They didn't have the power to breach the main hull, so they attacked its functions, clogging engine exhausts, jamming weapon ports, and blinding sensor arrays, one antenna at a time. It was a death by 1,000 cuts. While this was happening, Romus executed her part of the plan. She leaked a carefully fabricated intelligence packet to the Kylan Dominion, suggesting a massive Growl fleet was secretly massing for a surprise attack on their territory. The Kylan, defined by their paranoia, swallowed the bait whole, diverting key reconnaissance assets away from the Griffin's Clutch. The snake looked the wrong way. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic for the Growl. The crippled station effectively stranded their fleet, crippling their offensive against the Kylan. But the victory came at a cost. 3 human freighters were vaporized in the attack. The cold, technical victory suddenly felt hollow. The celebration was cut short by a simple video message sent to Renzo's private terminal. It was from the wife of a helmsman who had died. Holding a small, sleeping child, tears streaking her face, she spoke with an impossibly steady voice. Liam believed in what you were doing. He said you were all making it count. So whatever comes next, make it count. The weight of that simple command felt heavier than any Growl dreadnought. It was that weight that drove Renzo's team to painstakingly reconstruct the data core they'd retrieved from the station. And inside, they found the truth. An anomalous carrier wave in the missile's final telemetry logs. A ghost in the machine. A technological fingerprint that could only belong to one species, the Kylan Dominion. It was a frame job. They had been played. The Kylan had orchestrated the attack to drag humanity into their war. Romus, armed with this undeniable proof, opened a secure one-time use channel to the Growl High Commander, Crovis. She sent him the entire unedited data core and the human analysis. Her message was simple and brutal, designed to appeal to a warrior's pride. Commander Crovis, your real enemy played you for a fool. Attached his proof. The bait was in the water, and the shark took it. What followed was a masterpiece of weaponized industry and strategic genius. The Kylan punitive fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system, expecting a token resistance. Instead, they met with a system-wide trap. Lasers blinded their sensors. Asteroids herded them into a kill box. And Renzo's net drones tangled their fleet, leaving them crippled and helpless. Just as the Kylan fleet floated in disarray, 50 Growl capital ships, led by a furious Commander Crovis, materialized from hyperspace, their weapon ports open. Romus broadcast a system-wide message to the Kylan emissary: surrender to the Growl, or be left to their mercy. Defeated and publicly humiliated, Vespera surrendered her entire fleet. The galaxy was changed forever. Humanity had ended the Forever War without ever firing a shot from a naval vessel. In the new galactic order, the Sol Doctrine became a formal, terrifying diplomatic term, a final chilling reminder of what happened when you pushed the quiet, clever, chaotic species in the Sol system too far. They didn't need an empire. They had simply posted an invisible sign at the edge of their system, written in the language of crippled fleets and shattered dynasties. It was a warning, a promise, and the final, unassailable truth of their existence. We are here. We build. We dream. We love. And if you harm us, we will become the last problem you will ever have.